So tell me about this. It's called Tim's Vermeer. Yeah, before we get to that, you seem to have a love for machines, for beautiful machinery. Pinball games, computers. You have a Clover coffee maker?
Yes, I do.
One of the few private individuals, maybe the only private individual. Clover is that thing that the guy at Starbucks, Howard, saw and said, "I'm not letting that stay in business. It could put Starbucks out of business." He bought the company, he said, and no one else can get another one. Did you get your Clover before that? Or did you talk Howard
afterwards.
Into it?
We got it from a dealer who said, "Hey,
I have one in stock."
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to be able to sell these. We can't get spare parts for it, so we have to hack on it to keep it working.
You need a 3D printer, titanium 3D
one.
printer. Yeah, print parts for your Clover. So I get the sense that you like. That you see a beauty in perfect machinery and things that work beautifully. You talk about high quality audio. That's the same thing, right? Are you one of those audiophiles with vacuum tubes and Macintosh amps and sand tables for your turntable?
Yes, I have Martin Logan electrostatic speakers with Acoustat vacuum tube amps.
Oh man,
it's nice sound.
And what do you use for the source?
Just a good CD
Vinyl
player.
CD.
Yeah, vinyl is overrated. I mean, there's some good things about it, but when you talk about pinch distortion, when that needle gets toward the center of the record,
yeah,
it's not good.
I've never understood this. Now, I'm excited by what Neil Young's doing with Pono to do these 96-bit, higher quality digitization.
Yeah, that's neat.
I think that there's some hope there. If you're recording it that way, let's hear it that way. Mm-hmm. But I agree.
It's marginally better. I mean, CD audio, 16-bit, 44 kilohertz. It's not bad. It's hard. In the early days of mastering CDs, they made a lot of mistakes, and it got a bad reputation. It took them a while to learn how to avoid that. It's not bad.
I remember some very bad CDs in the early days. You could hear the hiss from the record player.
Yeah, or you could hear in cymbals, especially sort of soft passages with cymbals, you heard crunchiness.
Yeah.
That was typical.
Yeah. So I guess a Vermeer is also in some ways a perfect machine. At least it's a perfect creation.
Yeah, Vermeer painted about 350 years ago in Holland, part of the Dutch golden age of painting, where the painters were trying to emulate reality. They wanted it to be like you were looking through a window.
He painted the girl with the pearl earring.
Yeah,
Everybody's
his
seen
most famous one.
That painting. So just so people can get an image in their head of what we're talking about.
And, about 1839, when photography was invented, long after the Vermeer was dead and gone, people started to say, hey, these photographs kind of look like Vermeers. That's weird. And there is something photographic. When you look at advertising art today, you can usually tell if somebody started with a photograph to make their artwork. There's got a look to it. Or a little kid comes in with a picture of a cartoon character, a superhero. And he says, look what I drew. And it's obviously traced, right? And you go, did you lay it over the top of the comic book? Oh, yes, I did. How did you know?
Out. Yeah. He invented it.
And so there's that look that we can kind of pick up. Well, I was looking at one of Vermeer's pictures called The Music Lesson.
Beautiful painting.
And it spoke to me. It said, I am a photograph. But there were no cameras back then. So there's been a lot of speculation about how painters could have gotten the shapes right and the perspective right by tracing a projection.
Right.
You can set up a simple lens, and it projects onto a flat surface, and of course you can go in and trace that. But I suspected that Vermeer was tracing not only the shapes, but the colors.
Because they're so accurate.
Yes. And it turns out the human eye is incapable of seeing what Vermeer painted. And here's the way that works. There's a white wall in the back of his painting. When we look at a white wall, our brain and our retinas tend to interpret it as a solid color, even though it's infinite shades. And it's happening right in our retina. There's image processing going on inside our retina. Not
it's
in the
actually
brain.
in the eye.
Yeah, and it's this local contrast enhancement that's going on that helps us see into shadows. So evolutionarily, it helped us avoid prey, avoid predators, and see prey.
Right. It's a motion detector.
It's a motion detector also, but it's also just trying to eliminate the effect of shadows.
Right.
Well, these walls that Vermeer painted had accurate shadows.
And they shouldn't.
They shouldn't. You can't see them. His contemporaries would make a lame attempt at putting a shadow on, but Vermeer nailed it just the way a video camera sees it. And that's what got me going. And I go, there must have been a machine he could have used to do that. It's the only explanation.
Now, where is this painting?
It's hanging in Buckingham Palace. The Queen of England owns it, and you can only get in to see it.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, a few weeks a year you can get in and see it. And when I started looking at these Vermeers in person, not in reproduction.
Because we're showing an image on a 300-pixel image from the internet. It doesn't do it justice.
No, it's gone through a process at that point.
Yeah.
That image you're looking at right there
JPEG like hell.
Was probably taken from like a medium format film image.
Right.
And by that time, it's gone. But if you look at that back wall,
you can see something going on there.
Yeah, the double shadow behind that mirror and behind that harpsichord. And if you look, the brightest part of the wall is right up next to the window there. The darkest part of the wall is down behind the gentleman, clear to the right.
Right.
And the ratio of light there, it's almost pure black and almost pure white. But it reads to us, if we were in that room, it would read to us as all beige.
Right.
And that's what you would paint. And if you can't paint it, you can't see it. So,
is it possible Vermeer trained his eye somehow to...
You can't.
You can't?
You can't.
You physically can't?
The retina is built the way the retina is built, and it can't see that.
So this is a little bit of a mystery.
It is a big mystery. And
so when did you first observe this?
I go to this trade show every year in Amsterdam, the IBC show. It's a big broadcasting show, and I was at the museum, the Rijksmuseum, where they have some Vermeers, and I was looking at the Vermeers, and later, after looking at them, I go, I think I see how he did it.
No.
I think I see how he did it. And so I went home.
Knowing what you do about optics, about light, I mean...
well, it's actually more what I
know.
know about electronics.
Really?
There is an electronic circuit called a comparator. It's a very simple circuit. You have two signals coming into this little black box. And the comparator will tell you which one is higher than the other, right? Very simple device. And I reasoned that Vermeer had a very simple
analog
form of comparator.
It have to be analog. We're talking the 17th century.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I went home and I did this experiment on my kitchen table where I propped up a photograph and I put a panel down flat on the table to paint on, and I set up this mirror at a 45-degree angle. Tiny mirror on a stick. So I'm looking down in the mirror, and in the reflection in the mirror, I see the photograph. If I look off the edge of the mirror, I see my panel down on the table. I took some paint, and I put it on the panel. And now, right at the edge of the mirror, I can compare those two colors very accurately. Oh, wait, that is way too bright. Mix in some black.
Wow.
Okay? Once you've got it mixed and it's the proper color, the edge of the mirror goes away. So if it's too bright, you can see the edge of the mirror. If it's too dark, you can see the edge of the mirror. If it's exactly right, you can't see the edge of the mirror. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It is not subjective at all. It's objective. You are a photo sensor.
It's mechanical. Here's an image of Tim doing this from a photograph. This is from the movie Tim's Vermeer.
Yeah, this is that first test I did. My daughter walked by with her digital camera and took a picture of it. So that picture vertically there.
So the mirror is attached to your glasses?
No.
Oh, you're looking through it.
The mirror is glued to a mic stand.
I see.
And I'm looking down into it. And you see there that on the table that I've made an exact copy of that photograph. This is the very first oil painting I've ever done.
You're not an artist. You're not a painter.
I'm not an artist. I've never painted in my life. And
that's quite amazing.
And it works so well, I go, okay, I'm onto something here. So I started Googling. I figured somebody in the world has figured this out. So I Googled for a day, I Googled for a week, I Googled for weeks. I Googled in other languages, German, Dutch, Italian, Latin, looking for speculum, I'm looking for Spiegel, I'm looking for Kunst, I'm looking for all these words that relate to artists and mirrors. And I found a lot of stuff, but not that.
You'd think if this technique were widely used in Renaissance painting that it would be known. How was he keeping it a secret?
That is one of the best arguments against this theory. But they had guilds,
right?
Like the Freemasons would not teach laymen how to lay out the first course of bricks.
We've lost a lot of techniques.
Yeah, because
of this.
Because of the secrecy. Yeah, so they would have been keeping it all secret. That is the explanation.
Were there others of Vermeer's contemporaries who might have used this technique?
Yes.
If you look at their paintings?
And now that I've been doing the research on it, I think I see this idea traveling through time and across Europe.
So, how did you tell the world about this?
Well, after I did that experiment on my kitchen table,
which is pretty impressive. That's a good picture.
Yeah, I surprised myself, and I said, "This works way too well."
Yeah,
and it's simple. It's elegant.
It's mechanical. You can't go wrong.
There's nothing to it. So, I got a strange email from my friend Penn Gillette of Penn & Teller, who I've known for close
Penn was
to 30
also
years.
a video toaster fanatic.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And Penn...
Is that how you got to know him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way back when. And Penn wrote me this letter, strange, desperate-sounding letter, email. He said, I have been spending all my time with my toddlers and at work, and I am in need of an adult conversation.
I know the feeling.
Would you please come over and talk to me?
Oh, that's great.
And, it's the weirdest email I ever got from him. So I said, sure, I'll come over. And we sat down at one of these Brazilian steak places where they pile the meat on. And Penn said, I do not want to hear anything about show business. I do not want to talk about politics. I do not want to talk about anything that could involve work, okay?
What do you got?
And I said,
well, have you heard of Vermeer?
I said, what do you know about Vermeer? He said, the painter? I said, yeah. He said, well, I went to his big show back in New York many years ago, and, he paints photographic photorealism. I said, yeah. I think I figured out how he did it. And he said, what? And I explained it to him, and then I realized I had it on my belt. I had a camcorder, and I had a video clip there where I looked down through the mirror.
Oh, neat! So you could actually
show
see
him. And he says, I get this. I totally get how this works.
Sure, he's a magician. He's a mechanical genius.
Very similar to a magic trick.
It's how they do these disappearing things.
It's called mirror masking in magic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he said, I
got
totally
it immediately.
get this.
He understands the optics.
And he said, what are you going to do with this? And I said, I'm going to try to paint something that looks like a Vermeer, and I'm going to try to put this, make a YouTube video about it. And he said, that is a really stupid idea. I said, what do you mean? He said, let's make a real movie about this. Let's go to L.A. tomorrow and start pitching this. And that's how it started, and it just snowballed and took on a life of its own. That happened in February of 2009. And we didn't think it would take too long, but we just finished the movie just 2 weeks ago.
You actually said, I'm going to paint the music lesson.
Yeah. So what I had to do is I had to... in Lightwave 3D, I made an exact 3D model of that room and all the furniture and all the architectural features of the room, reconstructed the room.
You didn't start from Vermeer's painting.
No.
Holy
I made the
cow.
3D model.
You made what he was painting from.
So once I had the 3D models, then I used rapid prototyping and CNC, computer-controlled milling machines and lathes to make all that furniture. I built a full-size replica of his studio with the harpsichord, the viola da gamba, the Turkish rug, everything. Everything was in there. And then I set up the machine the way I thought he must have used it. Not looking at his painting anymore. I'm now looking through the apparatus and trying to paint. And there were some false starts. It didn't work exactly right the first time. And it took me about 7 months to paint it. And when I was finished, it was...
Did it look like it?
It was the same. It was the same
Variety
picture.
wrote yesterday, Peter DeBrugge, their senior film critic, so entertaining that audiences hardly even realize how incendiary it is. Tim's Vermeer stirs up a flurry of scandal in the hallowed realm of art history. Obsessive inventor Tim Jenison has a hunch that the only explanation for the photorealistic quality evident in the work of 17th century Dutch painter Johannes Vermeer is that he cheated using lenses or some other technological apparatus to achieve such remarkable detail. Jenison devises a 5-year science experiment to test his theory, emerging with an uncanny crowd pleaser, the secret weapon in Sony Pictures Classics' fall arsenal that plays like the ultimate episode of Mythbusters. People are actually talking Academy Award for Best Documentary. How exciting. So
Very exciting.
Teller is involved too, right?
Teller directed, Penn produced.
And Penn narrates.
Penn narrates, yeah, and he appears on film. Yeah.
I can't wait to see this. So they showed it at Telluride. I think they're still showing it. What did they? It's going to be at Toronto. It'll be at the New York Film Festival. Mm-hmm. And did they have? Sony's distributing it? Is there a theatrical date?
Before the end of the year. They want to get it out before the end of the year in New York and L.A. I guess because of the Academy rules, they need to have
right.
It. Yep.
Because you want to be eligible, because everybody's talking Oscar for this. David Hockney, the famous painter who did a lot of photos in his artwork, is in it. What is the art world? What does the real art world have to say about this?
We don't know.
They're going to flip their lids.
You know, it's been totally under wraps until 4 days ago. It's been total secret. Nobody knew about this film. So we suspect that some of them will maybe change their minds, but others are so set in their ways.
Hockney kind of intimated that this was possibly what was going on.
Hockney wrote a book called Secret Knowledge 12 years ago, where he said something changed in art. About 1500s, 1600s, something changed radically, and I think it was caused by optics. Now, he didn't know my trick, but he thought they were tracing. You know, he thought they were just getting the shapes and the perspective right. And nobody had really suspected there's a way to trace the colors.
But he knew, because he's an artist, he could look at it and he said, there's a switch that got flipped. Yeah. And it's interesting because he realized that, but it took you to come along and say, I think I know how they did it.
Mm-hmm. So early in the film,
cow.
before I started painting or anything, we went to visit Hockney in England, and I ran the idea past him. I showed him my first experiment, and I said, "Do you think this is going to work?" And he said, "I absolutely think it would work." And I said, "Do you think that they were doing this in the Golden Age?" And he says, "Absolutely, I believe they were doing it in the Golden Age."
You know, more almost than the wall, though I can see why the wall is convincing. I look at the tapestry here and the detail in that, and that looks like a photo.
Yeah.
That is remarkable.
You're looking at Vermeer's picture there,
yes, this isn't. I should say this is not a Jenison.
Right.
This is a Vermeer.
Yeah.
When you were painting that, I mean, what is your experience of painting it? It's all mechanical for you, right?
Yeah, it's a Zen thing. You're a machine.
Yeah.
All those little dots on that carpet are different color. And the mirror tells you exactly what color it needs to be. And all you have to do is just sort of dab in the different colors until you've got the right one.
And there it is.
Yep.
How close? You must have been highly zoomed in to do this, right? I mean, highly magnified. If you're seeing every dot in that.
Not really magnified. It's the picture is 25 by 29 inches. It's laying flat on a table, and I'm about 8 inches above the surface of it. So that's the kind of magnification I'm seeing.
You're not doing any optical magnification. You're actually looking directly at it.
I'm looking directly at the canvas.
And what kind of brush were you using? It must have been very fine.
I used a lot of different brushes, but they were all sable brushes.
Very fine sable points. Yeah.
And they're generally used for watercolor.
Right.
But that's what worked.
And this is oils that you were using?
Yeah. I had to make the paint. Because I wanted to use only paints that he had. We know exactly which pigments he was using because of the scientific analysis.
Right. And so you were grinding lead?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And mercury.
Oh, my God.
very, very nasty
dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
And how long? 5 years this took? How long did this take?
When I actually got the room completed and started painting, it took about 7 months.
So the light wave thing was the first step, getting it all modeled out. And how did you get it modeled so precisely? I mean, that's a challenge in itself.
In Lightwave, you can do this. You can put an image in the background, and you can wipe back and forth, and you can overlay lines on it. And then you make certain assumptions. You make assumptions that the walls are 90 degrees to each other.
Right.
And
it'll add volume as needed.
And so by using those basic assumptions, you make a three-dimensional model of the room.
You were working from must have been a very high quality reproduction.
There were the reproductions were all terrible.
The one I'm looking at, which is the best I could find, is on iBiblio, and this is actually a special site that they have for art. And you zoom in on it and you see all the JPEG artifacting.
Yeah. If you zoom, pan down now to that harpsichord, and the lower flap right there, the lower flap is just a mishmash of stuff.
Yeah.
But when I saw the actual Vermeer in Buckingham Palace, it's sharp as a tack. Everything is there.
So where did you get your copy? Did you go in and take a picture?
No, I didn't have a copy. However, that harpsichord, they still exist in museums. It was a Flemish company called Ruckers, and those decorations on there were block printed paper, and the paper is still on those instruments. And so I had this guy in Edinburgh make me those papers so that I could construct that instrument to look exactly like that. We know exactly what Vermeer was seeing because it still exists.
Just slightly obsessive.
You think? You know, they have.
What do your family think about this?
They have medications for this, but they wouldn't give me any until the film was finished.
No, I'm sure Penn's going, no, paint more.
My family couldn't have been nicer about it. My daughter posed.
It's so cute. Oh, she was the girl?
Yeah, and she had to have her head in a clamp for hours and hours and hours to hold her head still.
Holy cow. Well, everybody's raving about the LA Times, probably the biggest rave. In fact, the LA Times basically says that you're going to set the art world on its ear with this. Both inspired and insane, he says.
Oh, no.
I am dying to see it. I cannot wait till it comes out. And I think a lot of people agree from the reviews that I've read that as much as what you're doing is interesting, if it weren't for Tim Jenison and how much they loved you and were taken by your obsession, that's really what makes the movie
the movie ended up being about
you.
About my mental illness more than Vermeer. Yeah.
Although I just wonder what the art world's going to say, because in effect you're saying that Vermeer is not an artist, that he's a copyist.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think he was a very talented nerd.
He did compose the image, right? He put the
Indeed.
image together.
And he was trying to make a perfect image. He was trying to make a beautiful image.
As much an artist as a photographer today is an artist.
And you know, a better analogy might be what we do in motion pictures today.
Right.
We try to we use everything we got to make a great looking image on that screen. Whether it's computer generated or whatever, we'll use any technology, any skill we can to make a picture, and that's what they were doing back then. You know, it's the same thing.
Well.